Good evening once again. Let us start with the reading for this week, which is from the book Rays of One Light. This is week 26. The title is The Redeeming Light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The book of Isaiah in the Bible, chapter 9, tells us, "The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined." What is this light of which so many scriptures speak? In Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, we read of an early experience the master had with that light. Here, this is an excerpt from the autobiography where Yogananda is writing, "I was blessed about the age of 8 with a wonderful healing through the photograph of Ladi Mahashay. This experience gave intensification to my divine love. While at our family estate in Ichhapur, Bengal, I was stricken with Asiatic cholera. My life was despaired of. The doctors could do nothing. At my bedside, mother frantically motioned me to look at Lahadi Mahashay's picture on the wall above my head. Bow to him mentally. She knew I was too feeble even to lift my hands in salutation. If you really show your devotion and inwardly kneel before him, your life will be spared." I gazed at his photograph and saw there a blinding light enveloping my body and the entire room. My nausea and other uncontrollable symptoms disappeared. I was well. At once I felt strong enough to bend over and touch mother's feet in appreciation of her immeasurable faith in her guru. Mother pressed her head repeatedly against the little picture. "O omnipresent Master, I thank thee that thy light hath healed my son." I realized that she too had witnessed the luminous blaze through which I had instantly recovered from a usually fatal disease. Now, here, Swami further writes, "Where my light is, God once told a saint whom the divine light had healed, no darkness can dwell. The divine light, pure, calm, liberating, is the only final cure for every kind of delusion, ill health, emotional grief, and spiritual ignorance. Seek it daily in the silence, in deep meditation." As the Bhagavad Gita says in the 5th chapter, "For whom the darkness of the soul is chased by light, splendid and clear shines manifest the truth, as if a sun of wisdom sprang to shed its beams of light." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om Shanti Shanti. So here, Yogananda was sharing one of the excerpt from Autobiography of a Yogi. It's a wonderful expression. All of us have read Autobiography of a Yogi, where this incident happened, where he was down with Asiatic cholera. As many of us know that at that point of time, cholera was a almost lethal illness, and sometimes many people succumb to that illness, and how he recovered. So, in fact, the reason why I sometimes feel and Swami used to say that people, those who become doctors, they often have faced sufferings in their previous lives. And that is how this feeling is there in them that they should help others. And because Yogananda, as often he used to say, what are the two greatest drives which help us to come on the spiritual path? One is that we don't want to suffer. And second is that we want joy, we want bliss. So when I came to this profession, probably that was the thing which was propelling me, that, okay, how can we find a solution to sufferings of the mankind? I really enjoyed it. This just is a 30-year-old journey, you may say, when I joined my medical college and I started studying the medical science. I really was, it's a fantastic science. It helps us to delve into the human body, how it functions, what is the structure. And that was the reason probably I was interested only in doing medicine, because there were other specialties also which I could have easily chosen. But the more intricate, the more closer is this branch, which actually helps us to understand the physiology, you may say, better, and see how we can go deeper into the science of healing. And as I came out of my college and I started practicing, I felt that yes, it is a wonderful science. It helps many people to come out of their suffering, but still it has its limitations, because up to a certain point, you can help, and then after a certain time, you just cannot do anything about it. Whatever, I have worked in critical care, also intensive care, ICUs, and there comes a point when, as a doctor, also that you won't be able to do anything. And those were the times when sometimes people used to recover almost as if like a miracle has happened, and sometimes they didn't recover and you had no answer what happened. So the journey continued, and I thought maybe allopathy is what I am practicing, maybe other sciences can help me to help people better. And so I delved into homeopathy, yoga, meditation, ayurveda. So I continued this journey, and in a way, you may say, yes, it helped me to broaden my umbrella of the healing tools that I had. But still, it was falling short. It is to say that not everything you have which can help a person to come out of his suffering. And this is exactly what Master is saying here, that if you listen to his exact words, that when he was down with cholera, and it was, my life was despaired of, as I was stricken with Asiatic cholera. The doctors could do nothing. And on one side, you imagine he was a master, and he was healing others. And at the same time, he was down with Asiatic cholera. It was not that he was finding liberation for the first time. But yes, it was a Leela which was happening. But at the same time, what he was trying to tell us was that there will be a time when uh, even doctors, even the best of healers cannot do anything, because they don't have the final cure. And in the next paragraph, he does talk about the final cure, which probably as healers and doctors, I was always in search of that. And he said, what is that final cure? The divine light, which is pure, calm, and liberating. And it is the only final cure, he says, for every kind of delusion, whether it is ill health, emotional grief, or spiritual ignorance. And then he says, seek it daily in the silence, in deep meditation. And all of us, if you see, on one level or the other, we are facing this some kind of illness, you may say, because Swami Kriyananda at one time said this world is a mental asylum run by its inmates, which was which was a little joking way of telling. At one time he used to say it's a concentration camp where we find ourselves, and almost compulsively living here out of no choice. But then if it is a place where we are, what can we do about it? How can we come out of it? That should be the question. So if this is the suffering, which if we are suffering on so many levels, only a liberated master probably is the one who is having no illness, who is absolutely healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So how can we do that? And here Yogananda is giving us a clue that, okay, divine light, if you seek it daily, you will be there. You will be able to heal yourself. So how can we seek it? The only obstacle I feel, which obstructs to dive into this healing light or divine light, is our identification with the flesh. Here, another thing which I want to talk, which Yogananda has spoken of in Divine Romances, that often he said, I used to argue with God. Although he knew all the answers, but he still said, and I'm just quoting from this book, God is spoken of as eternal existence, eternal consciousness, eternal bliss. As such, he has never suffered. Why then did he conceive suffering for us? Isn't that strange? And then he says, I know the answer, but still I argue with him. And some of these dialogues I really enjoy because they give us a direct proof of evidence. Yes, you can also talk with God and you can receive the answers just like he's talking. And what he says, Lord, if you wanted to create this little play world, why did you have to make suffering a part of it? What is play to you is death to us. Why didn't you create this earth with beautiful flowers and no weeds, with life and no death or pain or other sufferings of karma, and no mass karma to plunge us into the terrors of war? Why, Lord, didn't you create a world without delusion? And what can he say except that we are free, only we don't know it? That's a beautiful line, that we are free and we don't know it. And that is why we are suffering. He gave us freedom when he created us, and this he gave us freedom to suffer or to rise above it. That is to mentally, how to mentally get away from it. And the most important thing, he says, which binds us to the delusion of suffering, he says, is identification with the physical body, identification with the flesh. So what can we do about it? I was reading one of the talks of a meditator, a long time meditator, and he said at one point that when we look at a lampshade, just imagine that you have a lampshade and there are many layers of shade over that. So often he says what we identify with is the shade, thinking that, okay, this is the source of light. We have a shade here, let us say if it is lit up. So, and you confuse that, okay, the shade is the source of light, but it is actually not. And if you go layer by layer, you will find that ultimate source of light is actually hidden, which is coming through the shade. And this is exactly what is happening in us also. When we say there is a redeeming light, everything on one way, in one way, is actually made of that light, whether you look at a stone or a rock or a mineral or a plant or an animal or a human being. But it is difficult to appreciate that light because there are many layers on that, just like the shade of a lamp which are covering it. So you are not able to get to the source. And even if you try, it is difficult to connect with that source of light outside yourself. But it is easy, or rather, that is the only way by which we can connect with that source of light within us, because that source of light is within us too. So, how can we do that? So, the the only path, or one of the paths that we can adopt, is to remove this gradual disconnection, or let us allow it to happen slowly, that we can disconnect ourselves with the physical self, and then we can go back to the source of light, because physical body is one shade, one lampshade, you may say. Mind is another, and then we can come to the exact source. And Yogananda said God actually helps us to practice it daily, every night. When we go into sleep, what happens in sleep? Even if there is a serious problem you cannot solve, or your body is in trouble, when you are asleep, you are free within. Do you see? And then he says, even by just closing your eyes and shutting out the sight of the world and your body, it is possible to separate yourself to some degree from identification with the body. And today we will practice a short guided meditation. You begin to understand that you are consciousness, you are thought. Thought cannot be invaded by the sensations of the body unless you permit it. Close your eyes and you can feel this truth within. Try it out. It will work. When with closed eyes you remain fortified within yourself and do not allow your mind to be excited by the sensations of the body, you become free from karma. We are actually free, and he's telling us the steps. Isn't that a marvelous thought? He writes, see the compassion of God that for 8 hours every night while you sleep, you experience no pain, no suffering, no knowledge that you have no money in the bank, no difficulties at all. In this way, he shows you that when you are free, when you free your mind, you are free from karma, or you're free from suffering. So the clue here is that how can we practice it? Even in the night, he says God is giving us this. In fact, this is one of the greatest blessings of God. Otherwise, imagine what life would have been if there was no sleep. We would not have survived, because every night, what happens during the day, we are playing with the forms. Whatever work we are doing, it is like playing with forms. Whatever you create, we have relationships, we talk to people, and then also we identify with forms. We are dealing with our forms also. But at night it becomes tiring, that okay, because that's not our natural state. The natural state is formless. And that is why when we go into bed and we go into deep sleep, you forget your body, you forget whether you're a boy or a girl, you even forget what is your profession, what is your occupation, what are your relationships, what's your mind, and you go into a natural state. And that is why it is so rejuvenating. Imagine that if we are not allowed to sleep for 1 day, or maybe 2 days or 3 days, what will happen? So here, the thing is that if even if you see, if I can just say, can I see you, or can you see me? You may say, yes, I'm seeing you, but are you really seeing me? You're actually seeing only my physical body. When you go and see yourself in the mirror, you don't see yourself, you only see your physical body, because the real self can't be seen. The real self is invisible. But because we are conditioned incarnation after incarnation to live in the realm of forms, and we get tied up and we start identifying with the form. We think we are a form, and that is what Yogananda is saying is creating trouble, is creating delusion. The greatest delusion, he said, of suffering is that we are identifying with the form. And that is the reason why we are not able to connect with that light, which is actually the real source, and we are light. There's a beautiful incident which happened with Yogananda when he was in Encinitas. So I'll just go through that, and then we will be doing a short practice of meditation. Once I was sitting outdoors at Encinitas, and it was very cold. I turned my consciousness within, and in a twinkling, I could not feel the cold at all. Joy came over me. Once in a while, I saw my surroundings melt into one light like a beam of a motion picture. If I concentrated on the picture, I saw the picture. If I concentrated on the beam, the world vanished. You cannot see anything without your consciousness. So here he's telling us a very important thing, that, okay, when we are in this world of forms, how are these forms appreciated? Because it's an experience, and for every experience, the fundamental reality is consciousness. Without consciousness, no experience can happen. Now that consciousness, when it comes, when it lifts up the mind is the first layer, you may say, like the example of the lampshade. It's the first shade which is closest to the light. And then mind is giving the energy to the inner senses, or let us say from the other way around. If you see an object, what happens? The light from the object is going through your eyes, which is the bodily part. And this is, you may say, one layer of the lampshade. And then that light through the eyes is coming to your brain in the mind, where mind is perceiving it. And then intellect tells you, oh, that is an object. And intellect is also a function of the mind. But from where is your eye your mind, your intellect getting the energy. That energy is coming from the consciousness. So you see, the real source of light is the consciousness, which is helping us not only to perceive the object, but also to identify it. So intellect is just a tool, mind is just a tool, eyes are just a tool, just like all these appliances which are there in the room, and they are only working because there is electricity. So you can say that consciousness is the final fundamental principle without which we cannot do anything, we cannot see anything, without which we cannot perceive anything. So this is what Yogananda is saying here. If I concentrated on the picture, I saw the picture. If I concentrated on the being, the world vanished. You cannot see anything without your consciousness. So if you have full mastery over your mind and you look within your soul, even though your eyes are open, you will see only that great light of God and feel his great joy. Only as you look outward through the eyes will your consciousness perceive the outer world. It is all God's motion picture. I could see that day in Encinitas, on one side, the sensations and thoughts that were dreams of my consciousness, which came from God. And on the other side, as I retired within, no sensations at all, just pure joy. And though I was sitting in that extreme cold, clad only in swim trunks, I could feel the cold and the scenery disappear and joy alone come. So here, in fact, this should be a practice which we should be doing every day. That practicing of techniques is just one aspect of our sadhana, which is wonderful because ultimately techniques will be helpful to have the control over the mind. But in the end, techniques are not the end. We have to fundamentally see whether I am going beyond forms, whether I still feel that I am a body, whether I still feel that, okay, if I have to leave my form right now where I am sitting, how is it going to feel? Will I panic or will I be absolutely okay with it? Because we go into formlessness every night. So what is the fear all about? That is why many saints used to say that I practice death daily, which is to say that if formlessness is our true reality, why to get attached to a form? So what we will be doing now in next 5 to 10 minutes is a short guided meditation where we will close our eyes and just see what Yogananda is saying, that when you close your eyes, immediately the world of forms has disappeared from our vision. As we are keeping our eyes closed, right before when the eyes were open, you were seeing people around you, you were seeing some objects in the room. But now it is only an approximation. You're not seeing anything. You are just assuming that, yes, there are some things here. You're not even seeing your body. And as Yogananda was saying, that even our body is a thought. It's a bundle of sensations. So try to feel that way. I'm not seeing my body. It's a bundle of sensations that I'm receiving. Feel yourself as if you are a point in the vast consciousness, a point of perception, suspended in the space which has no form. The vast space ahead, above, below, and behind. But you do feel that you are existing even when we are not seeing our body. That direct experience of existence is still there. It doesn't need any proof. You know that you exist. So, what is this existence? If a thought comes, just ask yourself, to whom is this thought coming? And if the answer is I, then I is the fundamental thought. All other thoughts are secondary. So just hold on to this feeling of I, this feeling of I-ness. And ask yourself, who am I? And I know that I exist. And also I know that I am aware. But from where is this awareness coming? Is this I creating the awareness? Or is it that awareness is a fundamental reality and this I is a shallow, is a bubble on the ocean of awareness? Keep on holding on to I, even when a thought arises. Just ask yourself, to whom is this thought coming? Come back to the I. And you will see that as you are holding on to the I, this I can only sustain if there is a secondary thought. Otherwise, it is pure silence. And slowly it merges into an ocean of ever existing awareness, which is always there. This I as awareness is formless. Just stay there for 1 minute in this formless awareness, which is common to everybody as the self. And if there is any thought which arises, see it as a vibration or a motion in this ocean of awareness. Just enjoy this silence for 1 minute. Oh, because of less time, we could not do this practice for longer period. But I would suggest that this can be a good practice after you practice any technique of meditation, and to enjoy the formlessness, the silence of formlessness, which would be like, as somebody defined meditation, a saint, that meditation is nothing but Jagrat Sushupti, that you go into the natural formless self by staying awake. That's the only difference. So here, one may say that what is it that, if this is my natural state, then what is it that takes me out into the world? Why do, if this natural state is formlessness, then why can't I remain in that state? The reason is that we have created a lot of tendencies in our previous lives because of desires or one thing or the other, and that pull, that momentum, and that is what we call vrittis or vasanas, and they take us out. That okay, you're we have just forgotten that our true reality is inside in that formlessness, but because we have created a habit pattern, it takes us out, telling us that okay, you can have it outside yourself. That's the whole game. So if we continue to abide in our natural reality, you will see that the momentum of those vasanas, the momentum of those vrittis will start naturally dying. Another person asked a question one day to a saint that, sir, if this is our natural state, and if it is always available, if this light is the only reality, why is it that then we suffer? And then he told him a story, and this is the story by on which we will end this satsang. He said there was this man whose cow became very sick, and he went to the Vaidya, and the Vaidya told him that okay, give this cow some crushed black pepper with about 250 ml of ghee, and it will be all right. The man came, and next day he went to the Vaidya again. He said, sir, the cow has become more sick today. And the Vaidya said, how come? Did you give the black pepper as I suggested you? He said, yes, sir. He said, did you give the ghee? He said, sir, my cow always gives me about 4 liters of milk. And that day I did not milk the cow. And always I get 250 ml of ghee every day. So that yesterday I didn't milk the cow, so ghee was inside the cow. So I haven't given the ghee thinking that ghee is already there in the system. He said, no, no. The Vaidya said, no, that is, even when the ghee was inside the cow, you had to give it from outside. That only could have helped the cow. And after giving the black pepper, that is why the things haven't helped it. So the saint reminded that man that yes, we have this light always available to us. That's the only thing which is actually there in this universe. But still, it cannot help us. How? Because we are not recognizing it, because we are not conscious of it. So, if you see, spiritual sadhana is all about daily milking the cow and then enjoying the ghee of that pure consciousness of our own being, and then only it will help us. So, although that light is there, but we have to live in that light. We have to get into that awareness. Otherwise, it is there, but it will not help us. So, that was his way of teaching the disciple. And here, Yogananda is also saying, if you see, he said, remind yourself of this truth each morning as you awaken. I'm just coming from the inner perception of myself. Because when we wake up, we have come from our true self. So just he said, remind yourself, I'm just coming from. I am not the body. I am invisible. I am joy. I am light. I am wisdom. I am love. I dwell in the dream body through which I am dreaming this earth life, but I am ever eternal spirit. And many times he has reminded uh, us to live in that eternal wakeful state, which he said, eternity yawns at me below, above, on the left and on the right, in front and behind, within and without. With open eyes, I behold myself as a little body. With closed eyes, I perceive myself as the cosmic center around which revolves the sphere of eternity, the sphere of bliss, the sphere of omniscient living space. And he was encouraging his disciples to read this Samadhi poem every day. Reason being that if we always feel that I am a body and stay localized, then how this feeling of omnipresence is going to come? So that is why Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam is what Jagadguru Shankaracharya said we have to practice. We listen, we think over it, we ponder, and then we contemplate on it and try to get absorbed into that thought. And that will take away the delusion of this identification with the flesh.